lesson number 4 of mastering positional techniques, and today we'll go over the clash between pawn formations. And let's start with the first concept, which is attacking the pawn triangle. So in this specific case, we're looking at the board from white side. So there are a couple of things about pawn triangles. There is obviously f7, g6, h7 on the king side, and there is also extended triangle, which is f7, g6, e5, and that's what we're playing against. So white start by playing f4. So we have a beautiful pawn formation here, and we just try to press this kind of extended pawn triangle by pushing f5 on the very next move. Black respond with c6, trying to potentially to go for some b5, and here h3, and we want to go f5, g4, and try to put some extra space for ourselves. Knight e6, f5, attacking the knight on e6, knight goes to d4, and now after g4, we kind of finished our play. Of course, g5, f6 is coming. It's very tough to play for black, and white got a very, very solid edge. The second position, and against, again, this pawn, regular pawn triangle, h2, g3, f2, and then we have like this extended triangle, which is f2, g3, and it would be regular if the pawn was on e3, but now it's on e4, extended, and like in the previous example, here black play f4. In the previous example, we want to play f5, and in this case we play f4. The plan is quite simple. In previous position we had g4, g5 coming. In this position we have g5, g4 from black side, knight f3, bishop h6. Our idea is of course to push, rook a e1, g5, bishop c1, queen h5. Now queen goes to attack, bishop to h3, and after takes, black are completely winning. They will go king h8, they will go rook j8. This attack is monstrous. Black, of course, are completely winning. Now let's get to the concept number 2. The second concept is prophylaxis against menacing pawn formations. So we'll look at this position, and white play g4. So as you might actually see, it's getting very dangerous for black. White are threatening to play f5. Usually this looks scary. A lot of players panic, do something stupid. But in the following case, we play against this strong formation, and this position occurs specifically for those of you who are familiar with Sicilian defense. It's close Sicilian, and usually this is where white are trying to attack on the king side, push g4, h4, f5, bishop h6, all these mating attacks. But in this specific case, and usually in close Sicilian, there is a move which stops this pawns from advancing further, and this move is to play f5, not letting white go f5 themselves. And usually, yeah, you gotta be extremely careful. Let's say in this case, there's pawn b7 which protect knight on c6. In some cases, f5 would be still possible, but you gotta be always sure that this knight is protected. And let's say sometimes rook on a8 and not on b8, so you always gotta watch out for this threat. So in this case, f5 works. Takes, and now black are in equal situation. Even though it seemed scary, in reality it's not really that scary. Bishop d7, rook f2, rook b8. Black got kind of an easy play, and yeah, just remember this f5 if you're playing this close Sicilian structures. The next position is some kind of, let's say, Queen's Gambit stuff, Catalan. White are trying to advance by playing c5. They're trying to play against our extended pawn triangle. And as we saw in the previous example, if they play c5, they might get, you know, some edge. And of course here, instead of letting them do it, we play c5 ourselves, and we put a pressure on this, you know, menacing pawn formation, d4, c4, b4, a3. Takes, and now of course black are feeling comfortable. I mean, the position is of course unclear, it's only out of the opening, but I mean, black got out of this like kind of traded pawns and feel themselves very comfortable. And let's get to the final concept of this video. Let's go. You probably are wondering, what is Taimanov prophylaxis? And prophylaxis generally is the word which we'll be using a lot during this video series. And for King's Indian players specifically, Taimanov prophylaxis, if you're playing it with white, sometimes, let's say even with black, you know, it will be very important for you to memorize. And in this case, white are trying, of course, to create some space, advance on the queen side, while black will, of course, as it's usually in King's Indian structures, they're going to advance on the king side. And what is Taimanov Prophylaxis? Taimanov Prophylaxis is basically playing against f5 maneuver. So black are constantly trying to play f5, and here we play g3, and our plan is to go knight h4, kind of putting pressure on this f5, and then bishop h3, again putting pressure on f5. And let's see, Taimanov is playing with white pieces here, and knight f8. a3, of course, we're trying to complete our plan by advancing on the queen side, knight g4, knight h4. Now we're playing against this f5. Knight g4 was played for a reason. They wanted to push f5 as soon as possible. a6, bishop d2, h5, h3, pushing the knight away, knight f6. Now b4, advancing on the queen side, b6, takes. And for those of you who've been watching my Title Tuesday recaps, like in those structures, it's very important to play next move, because look, now b file is open and you don't really want to give black this chance to kind of take it. And in one of my Title Tuesday games, I actually didn't use my opportunity to go rook b1 and I ended up losing. So in this case, now I'm more familiar with different patterns. Rook b1 is probably, even though computer thinks a4 is best, I think rook b1 actually makes more sense. You take b file under control. You don't let this bishop develop. Let's to b7, even though it's a bad square. But rook b1 is, very, very important move to make. Knight d7, queen a4, and, white have a good edge. f5 maneuver is not possible yet. Of course, black will eventually try to do that, but position is fine. This Taimanov Prophylaxis completed. Let's get to the next example, and this is Petrosian against Horde. Again, I'm, highlighting these arrows. White are trying to play b4, advance on the queen side, while black, of course, are trying to go for f5. And alright, you can start with bishop h3, you can start with knight h4. In the following game, white played bishop h3 first, not kind of stopping this f5 from happening. This can still happen, but f5, there is knight h4 maneuver, or takes knight h4. So it's very interesting how black are trying to push it right now. Queen b7. The idea is, of course, to play knight b6, trade light squared bishops off the board, and then play f5, and then try to open f file and just checkmate white here. White play knight d1. The plan is simple. We want to play knight e3 and again play against this crucial f5 square. Knight will potentially go to h4, and we were just trying to build like an impossible f5 maneuver. Basically, the more pieces protects f5, the better. Of course, black play knight b6, trading bishops off the board. Now, white technically have no choice, because if bishop goes back, f5 is going to happen. And as we saw in the previous example, here we have this e4, f2, g3 extended triangle, and f5, f4 will be happening like almost immediately. So bishop c8, queen c8 again, f5 is to be played. Knight h4, and now again f5 takes, and we have some queen h5 at the very least, trying to put pressure on f5, trying to give some checks on g6. Black go knight c7, they also try to protect this pawn on a6, knight e3. Now we kind of protect this square at all costs. Queen h3, b4, advancing on the queen side, knight d7, b5 takes. Now rook enters the 7th row, rook c8, bishop a5, putting extra layer of pressure on this knights on 7th rank. Knight b6 takes, and the plan is to go bishop b6, knight c4, advance b pawn, and the position is collapsing for black pieces. So if you don't understand anything, guys, let me know in the comment section, because as we go through the lessons, it will be only more and more complicated, because with some, terms, I'm not even familiar with some of the terms. And, I'm learning along the way with you, so any feedback is appreciated. Any things you don't understand, just let me know in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next lesson next week. Bye-bye.